welcome to our next session here at the Munich Security Conference. My name is Ravi Agrawal. I'm the editor-in-chief of Foreign Policy magazine and the host of FP Live, on which we are also live streaming this session. The name of this session is titled Terrifying Times, and I feel like that name itself gives you a very good sense of the mood when it comes to America's tariffs on much of the world and what that has done to weaponized trade. So let me just introduce our four excellent panelists on stage. I ask you to hold your applause, and once they're all on stage, let's hear it for them. They are Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the Director General of the World Trade Organization; Alexander Stubb, the President of Finland; Lars Klingbeil, the Vice Chancellor of Germany and also the Minister of Finance; and Thom Tillis, Republican Senator from North Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for our guests. Welcome to all of you. It's great to have you here. Director General Okonjo-Iweala, I'm going to start with you. We're now in year 2 of Trump's second term, and I remember this time last year, the word you kept using was chill. And you kept telling us that, you know, let's wait and see what happens when it comes to tariffs. Well, now it's been a year. We have some data. We know what's happened. And it seems to me you've begun to sound a lot more concerned about the state of affairs.
Well, thanks, Ravi, and good afternoon, everyone. When I said chill, it wasn't that I... Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. When I said chill, it wasn't that I wasn't concerned. I was very concerned. But what I meant was reacting quickly to these announcements without thinking through what kind of approach you need to have, I didn't think was the best way to go. Because at least for my members at the WTO, because the reaction then would be immediately, okay, I need to hit back. And I thought it would be worthwhile thinking it through. There's one thing you need to know. It's not all about trade or tariffs. The tariffs, so many other things are linked into it. Security issues, immigration issues, energy issues. So when you're dealing with that kind of situation, you need to think through your reaction and your action. If you start a tariff war, can you carry it through? Would it be better to have dialogue? We've been there before in the 1930s, and it was a bad movie. So that's why I said chill.
So take us to 2026 now. How concerned are you?
Oh, I'm still concerned. I mean, we've got a situation in which the U.S. average weighted tariffs have now gone from about 2.6 to about 18% in our numbers. These are the announced tariffs, but the actual applied tariffs are closer to 14%. That's still a big leap. The same, almost as the same number announced by the New York Fed, at 13%. So this is a big change and a big leap in protective measures. And I will always say, look, I may not agree with the US's unilateral actions or approach to dealing with the issues, but I do agree with a lot of their criticisms of the system. And what I would like to say is that the system has not evolved, has not been quick to change and respond to the changing world. And some of those criticisms about it not functioning well are good, and it's across administrations. It's not just this administration, but various ones. I see Mike Froman sitting in the audience, and I think he was also one of the critics. So we may not like the action, but we must take the signal that we need to reform many of the things with the world trading system. So that is where we are now. And then the second point I want to make, and I know people don't like to hear this, in spite of the massive disruption of the system, the biggest we've seen in the past 80 years, an undermining of global trade rules, the system is proving resilient. I will keep saying it. That 72% of world's goods trade is still on WTO terms. So battered, bruised, but not broken. Those are my words. The system is still largely functioning. So partly, this explains my calm nerves, chill. And I'll end by saying that I want to give my members, I'm very proud of them because they didn't descend into tit for tat with the US. If they'd done that, the world would be much worse off than where we are now.
Fair enough. That's a good point. Vice Chancellor Klingbeil, about an hour ago, we all heard from Chancellor Merz and his words that the international order is over. Do you want to build on that? I mean, that sounds so different than what we've just heard from the Director General.
So, first of all, I think Chancellor Merz gave a very powerful and very good speech. And he was giving orientation for the whole Munich Security Conference. And he was analyzing that the world order as we know, it's over. But I think he gave a good overview, and I totally support that if we do the right things now, we have a possibility to form something like a new order. I'm totally convinced that this world order we all know, formed by blocks, this is over. We will face a world order where we see different power centers. And all these power centers will find relationships, dependencies, maybe conflicts. And he was very clear, and I support that Europe has to work very hard, that we are an attractive and also very powerful center in this world. Germany has to do the homework for that. Europe has to do homework. And so, I mean, it's always that in Germany or Europe, we look what is the US president doing as next. And I think we should, I mean, we have to see what he's doing next, but we can do our homework. We can work on our European sovereignty, we can work on competitiveness, we can work on defense. And if we do that, I think Europe will have a powerful place in this new world order. And then there was also a very clear signal that we are looking for new partners. So I'm really happy that we now have, after 26 years, this EU-Mercosur deal, and we will finish the last steps in the next weeks, I think. I'm very happy that we have now this agreement with India, and let me say that at last point, I'm totally clear. I'm convinced that tariffs are bad for the people, tariffs are bad for the economy on both sides of the transatlantic. But if US and the government is willing to go this way, we have to find other partners, we have to strengthen our economic growth, and I think Chancellor Merz was very clear on this, and I support him.
President Stubb, if I can bring you in, I think you're the perfect person for the question I want to ask you. You not only have a PhD in international relations, you also represent a small country, at least by population size. And I'm worried when I look at new data from UNCTAD, the UN body on trade and development, which shows that US tariffs, they always sort of gave a competitive advantage to bigger countries and rich countries than they did to smaller countries. And in the last year, that difference has been exacerbated. So richer countries have been able to strike their own deals with the United States and also elsewhere, as we just heard. Smaller countries get left behind. What advice do you have for the world if we are headed into this new order where bigger countries can manage and the weaker ones suffer?
Join the European Union. Gives you protection.
What about the rest?
No, I mean, just to rewind, I think what we're seeing right now with tariffs, protectionism in general, it's the reversal of the world that we experienced after the end of the Cold War, where the basic idea was that trade would be liberalized, many countries would revert to liberal democracy and globalization in general. So the things that were supposed to bring us together, like currency, energy, trade, technology, even information, they are now being weaponized. And that's what we're seeing sort of in the post-2022 world, where we start talking about worries of value chains, which used to be a given in any kind of a free trading system. Now, I want to sort of counter your thesis a little bit. A country like Finland has not been hit any worse than Germany vis-a-vis the United States. Why? Because there's exclusive competence on customs, there's exclusive competence on trade, there's exclusive competence on competition policy, and there is exclusive competence on currency or monetary policy in the European Union. So we're shielded from that. So when there's a threat after the Greenland issue that, we will raise tariffs to 25% with Finland. Well, you can't do that because then it's 25% for the European Union. So, we feel quite good in this place. What should smaller states or middle powers do? I think we should lean in and support the multilateral trading institutions such as the WTO. And Ngozi has told me that 72% of world trade still is based on WTO rules. And I think what Europe will end up doing is hedging and de-risking a little bit. That's why you see a quick trade agreement finally with Mercosur. You see a trade agreement with India. I don't exclude some kind of investment agreement in the long run with China either. And I think you're going to start seeing this type of behavior coming from other countries as well. So instead of leaning in on tariffs and a multipolar world and retaliation, people are going to start saying, okay, let's go back to the rules that existed because they were much more stable. And this, I think, pertains to both small countries and big countries.